first known rules of golf were drawn up in 1744 by the Gentlemen Golfers of Edinburgh in Leith, Scotland. Since then the game has changed dramatically. Golf courses, equipment, and not least the rules. So where do I go when I want to learn about the rules of the game today? Well, I go to the Golf Rules Questions podcast with Blakey and Ross, of course. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of the Golf Rules Questions podcast.
Welcome everyone to episode 59 with your host Blakey from Golf Rules Questions for the Golf Rules Questions podcast number 59, and co-host this week is my great friend Stuart McPhee. Welcome aboard, Stuart.
Thanks, Blakey, and welcome home to you after your journey over the other side of the world for 2 weeks and some exciting golf experiences. Welcome back.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, back on board, arrived home on Tuesday morning, Australian time at 5 o'clock, and then it was a case, and this is, a usual funfair. It was a case of just adjusting back to the time zone. I never saw Monday. It just disappeared in the stratosphere. Never saw it. So I got on a plane on Sunday night and arrived home on Tuesday morning. So, it's good to be back. But, yeah, I can't wait for the next one, the next tournament coming up. So hopefully I'll find out soon when that is.
Fantastic. Very good.
So let's rip into the GRQ OTW for 58. Can you give me what that was? I can't remember it.
You've had some things on your mind with travel and stuff. So this is when Helen and Charlotte are playing in a stroke play competition. Charlotte has a long putt and it's travelling with some pace, about to go past the hole, and Helen's ball is at rest on the putting green, and Helen thinks, Charlotte's ball could easily hit mine. I better quickly move it out of the way because I know it's a penalty if Charlotte's ball is to hit mine at rest. So she quickly leans down, picks it up off the green. Charlotte's ball goes past, and then she puts a ball marker down to mark the spot. And the question was just simply, what's the ruling? Is there any penalty to either player?
Yes. So I would know that there is a penalty to Helen. There is a penalty to Helen. There's no penalty to Charlotte. But what's the penalty to Helen, Stuart?
Yeah, so of course you know the answer. So there's a few rules at play here. The first one I wanted to talk about was 9.4, which is, generally speaking, if your ball's in play, you can't move it. And Helen's ball on the green is in play, and you can't just go around and pick up your ball all the time. But of course, there are some exceptions when a rule allows you to do that, and we have to go to Rule 13.1b, which is about the putting green. And if your ball's at rest on the green, you can lift and clean it and the like. But then we go to 14.1, which says, if you're going to lift a ball from the course under a rule and you must replace the ball on the spot, you must mark the spot of the ball before you lift it. And that's where Helen's had a bit of an issue, because if you fail to do that, that incurs a 1-stroke penalty. But I want to bring up one more rule, and that's 11.3, which is deliberately moving objects to affect a ball in motion. So you can't, generally speaking, you can't move things on the course if it may affect a ball in motion. You can't move loose impediments, movable obstructions. But again, there are some exceptions, and they're mainly on the putting green. And one of the exceptions is you can move a flag stick that's been removed from the hole, and you can move a ball at rest. That's not a breach of 11.3. So Helen moving her ball at rest is okay. It doesn't breach that rule. But generally speaking, you can't move things which may affect a ball in motion. And one of those things is a ball marker, for example. You can move a ball at rest on the green, but you can't move a ball marker if it may affect a ball in motion. So she hasn't breached that rule, but she certainly breached 14.1, and that incurs, as you rightly said, Helen's in trouble. She incurs a 1-stroke penalty for lifting her ball but not marking it before she did that. So there you go, a few rules at play.
Very good, Stuart. So there you go, Helen. You must mark it. What happens if Stuart was just over there and he thought that Charlotte's ball was going to hit Helen's ball, and he was the first on the spot and decided to lift Helen's ball? What would occur then?
That's a good question. So if Helen didn't tell me to do that, So I'm not acting under her authority. And we know that's under 1.2, 1.3. So if I'm not acting under her authority, Helen hasn't breached the rule. But me, am I another player in the stroke play competition?
Yes.
I would think it might have an issue with 11.3. I'm thinking, because it talks about player equipment. I'd have to delve into. You got me there. Good question.
So the answer is no penalty. That would come under 9.5.
Well, 9.5's opponent in match play.
Oh, sorry, 9.6.
9.6. Okay.
So you as the other player in stroke play is an outside influence, and if you cause a ball at rest to move, then there's not going to be a penalty, even if you didn't mark it either. So you could lift the ball. Charlotte wouldn't get a penalty. Helen wouldn't get a penalty. You wouldn't get a penalty. And then who can put the ball back, Stuart?
The player or the person who moved it, and only those two people. Excuse me.
Spot on. So there we go. Not the caddy in this case, unless they had lifted it. They were the one that lifted it. Now, if they are the one that lifted it, there would still be a penalty. If it was Helen's caddy, it would still be a penalty under 9.4. All right, I think we delved down that rabbit hole far enough. We can.
Such a simple situation, though, but it does involve multiple rules, despite being such a pretty simple situation.
I had one other. I was going to ask you another following question, but now I've forgotten it. So hopefully it pops back into my head.
I don't put on the spot again.
No, it's all good. So, right, what are we up to? Where are we going?
Well, I think we can't go past your experience, and the golf world is buzzing with talk about LIV Golf, and you were there. And I know you have done other, I wouldn't call them media appearances, but you have done other talks, other podcasts, other interviews about this particular event. So it's obviously the topic of the moment in golf, and I'd love to hear your experience, and even just specifically about golf rules, or just generally speaking, how it was for you.
Yeah, so the LIV Golf event, I tell you what, so the Slaley Hall International Series was awesome, and we talked last podcast about that. I did that podcast from the hotel room, and that was, so I did it from LIV, didn't I? And then, now I can't even remember. Anyway, I did one from a hotel room. I think that was from Slaley Hall. So we were just in the middle of that, or just about to get into the Slaley Hall one. And, it was a normal 72-hole tournament. We wake up at 5:30, make sure that you're ready for when the first tee shot goes at 6:30 or 6:40 or whatever it was. I think it was the first and 10th tee are right beside each other. So one started at 6:40 and one started at 6:45. But, there was a normal 12-hour, 13-hour day for a referee on the Thursday, Friday, and then an 8 or 9-hour day on the Saturday and Sunday. That's what I'm used to. We had a few rulings, nothing really untoward or major or, just cart pass, lots of red penalty areas, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so then Sunday night, tournament finished at 4 o'clock. Unfortunately, Travis Smythe had a terrible shot into the 18th, didn't make the up and down out of the bunker, made bogey, lost the tournament by one shot to Scott Vincent, who won 2 in a row. He'd won the Mizuno Open in Japan the week before. Those top 5 got a start in the LIV Golf event that was still waiting to announce 6 players to play. The 6th player was, of course, Phil Mickelson, who was getting handsomely paid to be there. So I have a shower, pack up all my gear. Bus was leaving at 6:30 p.m. from Slaley Hall, which is near Newcastle, quite high up in England. Bus leaves. I bags the back seat, so that was good because I got to lay down and have a sleep. on the way, got into the hotel about 12:45, quarter to 1 in the morning. Checked ourselves in, went to bed, and I think I got up about 7:30 to catch the bus and go out to LIV. So go out to Centurion Club where LIV was getting hosted, and the feeling was awesome. Like, there was a buzz. Things were still happening at the course. There was still a lot of building happening, heaps of corporate marquees, all that thing. Now, usually a tournament has until, you don't want this going on. Certainly don't want this going on when the tournament starts. But if the TV doesn't start till, say, 10 a.m. or 12 p.m. or 2 p.m., that's probably the most important thing. And that's your time, your absolute dead date that you want to get everything done by. Thursday, 2 p.m. was the starting time, effectively. So they had up until then. But again, fans were going to start coming in at 11 a.m. on Thursday. So they also had that sort of date that they had to have all the corporate marquees done, the fan zone, all that kind of stuff. But we went out, we had checked out the course as we normally do. I like to walk the course. This was a tough course to walk. The weather wasn't too bad. It wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. It was actually really nice in London. We got a little bit of rain here and there. It was similar to sort of Melbourne weather. Rain, sun, rain, cloud, sun, whatever. Very similar. But we walked the course and we drove the course and just checking out little things, what we do here. Stake trees with guards around them, the out of bounds, where that is going to be around the clubhouse, where that's going to be around the 18th, dropping zones, all that kind of thing. You try and put this in as early as you can because you want the players, if they're playing practice rounds, to know all these areas. Now, we'll go to utmost lengths to, we'll be 50, 60 metres away from the landing zone, marking penalty areas and out of bounds, just in case that one ball in a million gets there. And that usually does, but I don't think we had too many issues this week. But yeah, you never want the player coming up and then the referee coming up to give a ruling, and the referee's like, no, not sure what we did here. That would be the worst situation that you could have. But it was a real good feeling, like a real, we'd see the publicity. It was absolutely trying to tear us a new one. Oh, this LIV Golf is bad for golf. This LIV Golf is bad for the PGA Tour. LIV Golf is, where are they getting this money? It's shocking, human rights. And at the end of the day, did I get paid millions to go and do this tournament?
Not quite.
I certainly did not. But did I, putting all that aside, I was just there to run a golf tournament. That's what I was there to do, and that's what I like doing. So I was definitely going to put my hand up and say, yes, I want to be there and be part of it. And being part of this sort of history, who knows how long it's going to last. It could last a year, it could last 4, it could last 100. Who knows? But it was just really cool being part of the first one. And everyone there was so happy and so keen. And, of course they got paid millions to be there, some of them, but, even the caddies got treated so well last week. I think they love the LIV events because they got treated so well. They got comped for accommodation, comped for a lot of their food was free. They could go and sit with the players. Usually the caddies and players can't sit together. There'll be players dining and there'll be caddies dining, or just caddies just go and get whatever they need to get. They're out there in the scrub. But they were looked after so well, so they really enjoyed the event. And, they're going to tell their player, oh, this is great. And that's going to get around the caddy. In the US Open this week, all the caddies from the LIV Golf event will be like, oh, man, it was so good. You should definitely try and get your player to play there. And then we saw, what did you see from Melbourne about, the LIV Golf? What was the publicity over here in Australia about?
I didn't actually see much. I actually just actively sought out a few interviews so I really didn't see much of the coverage. But I did actually listen to a few podcasts, people discussing it. I mean, I listened to yours just last night. I listened to another one from the US. So I actually did listen to quite a few. And I think some of the things that I heard were, well, one, the PGA Tour probably should be a little bit concerned. And, people have been critical of the way they've responded. But I think the interesting thing was this was tournament one. And never before has a new tournament new tour for event one had so much scrutiny. And it's tournament one. And, think about when the Japanese tour had tournament one, when the DP World Tour, the European Tour had tournament one. How about the PGA Tour when it had its first tournament? Was it run as well? Did it get as much publicity? Did it, run as smoothly as everyone was just so critical about, oh, this didn't work, or, oh, I didn't think there was much of a buzz, or this is tournament one. Like, wait till it's been established. Then you can, you're comparing it against very well-established tours, which run 20 plus events a year and, run like clockwork. So I think it's, the thing about politics and, the human rights and the like is I think often sport has that ability to transcend all that and to move beyond that. And therefore why we sort of bundling and all that together. Every country does things that other countries don't like. Every single country on the planet. I'm not passing judgment or saying what they do is fine and everything else, but every country's guilty of something. So you can hang your hat on something. I don't want to go and play in XYZ country because they do this to animals. You hang your hat on everything. It's something to hang your hat on. I think you'll always find something. But I just think it's what I liked was your opening. Then was about there was a buzz, and I think that's fantastic. And good for golf. And I want as many players to have that ability to play wherever they want and to go and play for money. They're that good. They deserve it. They've worked so hard to get to that position. I think you mentioned it maybe in a previous podcast or something that, if 50 players were to leave the PGA Tour and go to LIV, there'd be another 50 to quickly fill their spot real quick. There's that much talent around. There's so many people right on the edge, right on the bubble, trying to get into that tour, they'd walk straight in, and they'd be competitive pretty soon. It's not that big a deal in that sense, I don't think.
No, I think the PGA Tour will still survive quite well. They do have a very well established, or a big ownership of the world golf rankings, so they're not going to give that up in a hurry. They are going to absolutely fight for it. It'll be interesting to see which way the European Tour go. I see that some of the LIV Golf players that have been banned from playing on the PGA Tour or suspended, Sergio, Garcia and Louis Oosthuizen, they are playing in Europe next week on the BMW International Open. So European Tour haven't suspended them or banned them from playing or anything like that. So it will be interesting to see where the European Tour go. For me, the whole idea that I like LIV Golf is, they hopefully will go global. Like at this stage, there's 5 tournaments in the States, 3 tournaments outside of the States. If they can get one to Australia, get one to South Africa, another one in Asia, hopefully, have at least sort of 5 or 6 or 7 big tournaments outside the US, then I'm going to be more, very supportive of that tour, because that's, we just see all this talent, this big talent pool in the States, and we don't get to see them. We don't, they don't play here. If you want to be if you want to be a successful Australian golfer, you basically have to live in America. And then they've always got tournaments against our tournaments, so it just dilutes and ruins our tournaments in Australia. So the US are crying foul, but it's so US centric, that PGA Tour, that I don't feel it does too much for global golf, whereas this LIV Golf or the European Tour, the Asian Tour, they're possibly taking it more around the world and making it more global, will be better for the game of golf. But that's just my opinion. And if we get back to the rules, so we had a couple of funny situations at LIV Golf. I think I saw, and this is what publicity does, I think I saw someone write about this and just say, oh, it's a startup tour and they're still trying to get their rules team right and stuff like that. Which is probably true.
No,
anyway,
it's not.
We had one, it was an interesting situation where par 3, the player, I wasn't there, so this is 95% correct, not 100. But the player hits a shot, and one of the caddies, and then that caddy for that player that just hit a shot was beside the bag, and one of the other caddies sort of walked over to the bag and just wanted to have a look and see which club was used, which is totally fine as long as it's not
something.
Unless it's a physical act to get some information. So that's totally fine. He walks over there, but at the same time as where he saw that the player hit a 7-iron, the other caddy who was there beside the bag, the caddy who for that player, goes like this. And so that's giving information. If you go like that, you're giving information. Now, chief referee ruled, and I was happy with this ruling. Chief referee ruled that the caddy had actually seen, it was simultaneous, this information and the caddy actually seeing that there was a 7-iron. So the caddy didn't gain any information from the other caddy going like that. They already knew that it was a 7-iron. They didn't have to see this to know that it was a 7-iron. So they gave that caddy a ruling and just said, that this is not, you can't do that. You can't be giving information out. And so, but you can go and read about it. There's an article that someone wrote and saying, oh, this is, it wouldn't basically saying, oh, I wouldn't have it on the PGA Tour or whatever bad publicity that they wanted to throw at LIV in terms of the rules. But, you and I talking about the Sergio one, but we'll get more into it. The fact that, that referee stuffed up, and referees stuff up. I stuff up all the time. Not all the time. I hope not. But, referees make mistakes, and, no one was throwing mud at the PGA Tour. They came out and said, look, this was wrong. It is what it is. We can't change it now. No one was going, oh, that referee needs to get sacked. And they're they're a tour that they have long traditions of rules controversy, and it happens. It happens in footy, it happens in soccer, it happens cricket. Referees, officials make mistakes.
So the interesting thing about that with the caddy is that if the other caddy hadn't come over and made an effort to look into the bag, then that would certainly be a breach of 10.2. You are giving information that's likely to influence blah blah blah. But
that's right.
But the context is actually seconds away, or in fact has just identified the very information that was presented, and so it's an interesting twist on that I think makes a lot of sense, that he actually just found that information anyway. Yeah.
It's like, if you work out your line of play, okay, it's going to be over that bunker, and then someone says, it should be over that bunker. Like if you look in your book and you know the line, and then someone says, oh, it should be over that bunker, would that be the same situation? I think I've just opened a rabbit hole.
Close that hole. But I think the interesting thing for that caddy is he won't do that again.
No, that's right.
He's probably dodged the bullet, really.
Hopefully not. Then we had another one that I was semi-involved in. We had a player. These are the most interesting of, everything else was cart paths and TIOs and stuff like that. But we had another one where the player hit a provisional ball left on this par 4, goes down there, finds the provisional straight away, keeps looking for the original. In the meantime, the player, one of the other players actually said, to a volunteer or spectator, I'll go and stand beside that ball to make sure that we don't lose it. The spectator then went and stood beside
the provisional
or between two balls.
Oh.
And then the player, after 3 minutes was gone, player comes back and he goes, "Oh, there's my original." The volunteer found it, and it was, had the player found and identified that ball within the 3 minutes. Now we both know that if you find a ball within 3 minutes, but then takes you 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes to get to it and identify it, if you promptly do it, then it's still considered found because it was within the 3 minutes. But we were talking to the player and he was not happy. But basically, is between 0 and 3 minutes, did you know where a ball was that you needed to identify? And the answer was no. So then that meant that original was lost, and the provisional was the ball in play. The referee at the time said, just play both balls. One is your first and one is the second ball under that 20.1C. Three. And then we'll work it out at scoring. And so it came into scoring. Referee came into scoring. There was me. I was doing score recording, so I normally wouldn't be there. But there was a couple of other referees, and we were just, and at the time, we'd like trying to get the player out of it. We'd love the player to have his score with the original ball. But they've got your other players here, your other caddies, and we just have to go with what the rule is. We can't be saying, "Oh, yeah, well, if it was found by someone else, and then you could have a look at it after the 3 minutes." Well, that's not the way the rule's written in the book. So we have to just stick with what the way the rule is written, because it's nice to go and help someone out, but that's 47 other players that it affects as well.
Potentially disadvantaged.
Potentially. So, as much as we'd like to get rid of that penalty for the person, you just have to go by the book. Otherwise you're going to stuff up the other players in the game. So that was a couple of interesting rulings. It was a weird situation, or not weird, but it was unnatural, the situation of having a 2 p.m. shotgun start. So I'd get up and have lunch. I'd get up and have breakfast. I'd muck around my hotel room for 2 hours. I'd catch the bus, which was about a 35-minute journey, get to the course, twiddle my thumbs, go to the fan zone, listen to some music on stage.
Still working.
Maybe walk the court, maybe walk 1, 2, 3, 4 or something, because they were close and I just needed to go for a walk, maybe 18, and then have lunch. And then at about 1 o'clock, we sort of started thinking about getting ready. We'd get our papers and stuff like that. And then it was probably the hardest thing was getting your cart through the crowd. That's probably, you look at these little designs for us and how to move people around the course and stuff. It was probably the worst course for a shotgun start, but they made it work through London black cabs, which was pretty fun. But it's the worst course because it was like first here, and there's a couple around the clubhouse, but it's basically first all the way out to 9. Like the 10th hole is way on the other side of the course, of the other side of the property, and then you come back to 18. So there's not a lot of holes around the clubhouse. But yeah, so 2 p.m. shotgun start. The shotgun, we had to do the horn. That was called all 3 days. We did a horn, and there was so much other stuff going on. Like they had planes flying over. The Air Force did a flyover because there was a 2:15. Sorry, it was 2:15 shotgun start. So the Air Force would do a flyover at about 2:10, 2:12, and they'd do 3 or 2 loops, and then they'd fly off. There was a band. A band would play on the first tee, and it was kind of weird because the players, usually the players would get announced to be like next to the tee, Stuart McPhee, from Ireland, Stuart McPhee. None of that. It was only happened on the first tee. Whereas everywhere else, it was just shotgun start, and you just went off an order. So Graham McDowell didn't hear his name; he just went. Lee Westwood just teed up and went. That was interesting. Like, and they were thinking about going forward. Do we have a starter on every hole, just to announce three players? I don't think they need to, but
and it sounds like if it was on the 10th tee, there only would have been 4 spectators anyway because it was so far away.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. People turned up at 11 for a 2:15 shotgun. They had their food, they had drink, and then they started filtering out to the course and got to the spot that they wanted to get to. And then they knew that they stayed there, all the players would come around, and then everyone leaves. And so that's another thing. Like, it's like herding on a normal tournament where everyone tees off 1 and 10. At the end of the day, it's like herding sheep back towards the clubhouse. Whereas with a shotgun start, it's like herding cats. Everyone just is finishing at their hole, and then they get in their car and they go. And as I said, I got into score recording. So we had 4 score recorders because shotgun start, like 1 and 10. That's right, 1 and 10. You've got a group coming in every 10 minutes, 2 groups coming in every 10 minutes. Where shotgun start was like, phew.
Yes, of course.
And so people are coming in here, and you're just like this, and it was fun. It was fun. I love the shotgun start. I think because I like that sort of calamity, and we handled it very well. And it was easy. As you said, it was a startup. It was the first tournament for this tour. Not there were a lot of things that went right. There were a fair few things that went wrong, and they worked them out, and they were building this thing. They only announced that they were going to play at Centurion 8 weeks ago, 9 weeks ago now. So, to put all this together was incredible. Most of the crew from LIV Golf, had come from, there were a few from the PGA Tour, but a lot have come from other sports like NFL, Formula One, baseball.
Wow.
And so they brought all their expertise to LIV Golf, and it was actually pretty cool. Like a lot of them, it was a bit weird for them to try and work out what golf was, but then once they got it, they're like, oh, this is really cool. So you meet a lot of the team, a lot of them from the States, a lot of them from the UK. That the staging company was P54, the tour was LIV Golf, and then Asian tour were involved as part of the competition management. So we were looking after the actual game itself out in the course.
I'm sure some media reports would have had that some of the referees were from other sports as well. Is that?
I didn't see that, but it very well could have.
Oh, but by the sounds of it, how poorly the referees handled everything. They probably came from baseball or something. Anyway, have you ever heard before or seen before a referee direct a player to proceed with 2 balls in stroke play?
Trying to
I
think
just find it unusual.
Whether I have done it myself. I don't think I have. I think I've just gone and stuffed it up. I heard, I'm not sure if this is true or not, I heard that one of the absolute top of the game in terms of referees did it on the 18th hole for a player that had a 1-foot putt. And this was before the 13.1C, is it? Had changed, whether you cause your ball to move on the putting green. And it was before then, and the player didn't know whether it had moved or not. So the referee got him to play it from the new spot and also put another ball down in the original, where possibly the original spot, and they'll check the footage later. And and that was someone who worked for the R&A, and it's be in that mindset to, okay, what's the best way out of this? We'll just get them to play 2 balls and we'll sort it out with either video footage, or if there isn't video footage, then we just have to go off the evidence of the players.
Especially 1 foot putt.
Yeah, on the 18th green. So
exactly, it's pretty safe. There's going to knock both in, and
that's right.
It won't matter.
And they're straight to the scoring hut, so it shouldn't be too bad. But the LIV Golf was, it was pretty successful, and there was some bad scores there, and they were certainly highlighted. But it was a tough course. It was a seriously tough course. Past 70. It wasn't like the course at the Canadian Open. This thing was long. The greens were, not that flat, and they were running at sort of 12, which I thought was a little bit too fast. And so there were some big scores there. The rough and that was quite high. I had a ruling that I didn't really like. It was a messy ruling. There were some little trees that had tree guards around it, and we were only giving relief from the tree guard, interference by the tree guard, which is an immovable obstruction, not the full tree. So then you had to work out if they actually did have a reasonable shot for a tree guard, if reasonable shot and that interfered with the tree guard, and then it dropped into another spot that had another tree guard. And then it was I hated it. It was on TV, but it wasn't, thankfully. And I'll tell you why it wasn't. It's because, and this is pretty funny, you can go back and look at all the footage on YouTube, which is really cool. But at the same time I was given this ruling, the leaders were behind this group. So I was with the penultimate leading group, even though there's not a penultimate group because they all start at the same time. But the group that teed off on the first, and the group behind who were leading, one of the players hit it left and called 4 at the same time that I'm giving this ruling. And they got that on camera and actually hit a guy in the arse. And it was amazing. You got to watch it. He jumped over. It's like he'd been shot, and he laid down. I don't know if he was laughing or not, but it looked like he'd absolutely he would have been good in EastEnders or Neighbours or Bold and the Beautiful or something like that. So that was pretty funny. So thankfully that messy ruling didn't get on TV. But I had another couple that gave a player relief from a TIO. We dropped on a cart path, after all the rigmarole, placed it on the cart path, then took relief from the cart path back this way. That actually they then still had interference from the TIO, but because it was a lower part of the TIO, they were happy just to hit over it, knowing that they'd basically got out of jail from such a bad shot. So, those were mainly the rulings that I had. But I didn't have too many, and we didn't have to do too much with pace of play. It was a tough course, so pace of play wasn't amazing. But it was, because they all start at the same time, it didn't really have as much of an effect as it probably should have. So if someone, usually, at Slatey Hall, if someone's sort of 10 minutes out, the next group's sort of like 12 minutes out, and the next group's 14, and the next group's 16, and the next group's 8, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. Whereas around this course, certainly like a group that Matt Jones was in was always going to be under time, because that guy just flies. So he was fast, and so he could be minus, and he was like, one time he was a -6, getting held up by the group in front who were +12. But by the time that group they finished on this hole, and that group kept going, and they finished on this hole, and so they would have been in the scoring hut, which was good, because the scoring hut, it sort of, instead of them all finishing at the same time, all coming to the scoring hut at the same time, it was just in the nature of the course, the nature of the timings, it was a little bit staggered. So it actually worked out perfectly. So we didn't have to do too much with timing at all, which was good. The winner, Charles Schwartzel, had a great win, and there was a team win, and everyone was talking about the money. Dustin Johnson came in. When I was at score recording, he's like, "Do you have a breakdown of of the money. You know, the guy's just been paid $4 million just to play in the tournament, and he still wants to know what his money list is. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay, no worries. So I thought that was quite funny, but they're competitive, you know, they still want to beat each other.
Well, that's good.
And that's what you want. Like, you know, was there, you know, who's going to play in the next LIV event? Well, who knows? You know, if these guys are going to get paid and they're the best, but you still have to, you know, if you're not performing, like if, you know, you might not make the cut. So it'd be, yeah.
A lot of incentive.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, so that's, I think that wraps up the LIV Golf event. I'd love to be involved again. I don't think I will be for the US tournaments, but possibly the ones outside. Certainly if they have one in Australia, I'd definitely...
Walk up start.
Not walk up, but I'd definitely put my hand up and hopefully they remember who I am.
Very good. Well, good luck with any other upcoming LIV events. Do you want to talk about this Sergio video? Because I think this is a classic.
Yeah,
and great
absolutely.
from a referee perspective.
Absolutely. So give us a rundown of what happened with Serge.
So do you remember the event?
No, I don't.
So he's teed off, pulled his ball left.
Definitely. Was it the Travellers?
Don't know. Right. Certain to be, it's definitely gone into a red penalty area. But where his ball is, there's a lot of grass. So he's made his way down to roughly where his ball is, and he's entered the red penalty area, gone through some thick grass, crossed a creek with a little bit of hesitancy because of the ground, and he could get wet, could fall over. There's a lot of sharp rocks. Finally makes his way over to the other side of the creek and, you know, enters the area where his ball is going to be and looks for his ball and finds it. And it's just sitting there in some thick grass. And that's when he's gone, are we okay for time? And the referee said, well, actually, it's been 4.5 minutes of search time. And as you said in your commentary on the video, that's where the fun began. Do you want to take over from there? And why did the fun begin from that point?
Yeah, so it was in the Wells Fargo, and you see in the meeting in the video that he wasn't looking for his ball. He was actually just trying to get across the river to look for his ball, and he saw a snake, which was quite funny. I'm not sure. I had to cut out, like I had to edit the video a lot to get rid of the copyright part. Otherwise, they kept blocking it, and blocking it sucks. I don't mind that they copyright their videos. It's not my video. But if they block it, then no one gets to see it. So I have to keep going back and forth, trying to get rid of the... so in the end, sometimes it looks absolutely bastardized, and I apologize for that, but it's just because they keep blocking it. So I can't remember what is in or what is out, but he did see a snake. He jumped across the river, then he started looking, but the referee had already started their clock incorrectly, as was confirmed by the PGA Tour. But it was a weird situation that they were talking about, because then he said, I found my ball, and then he was like, as the watch, and you could see, this is the thing, you could actually see on the timer that it took 3 minutes, but I think I had to cut that out. It took 3 minutes. It took 2 minutes 30, but I think I had to cut that out. But then he's like, okay, I'm all good. And then the referee stepped in and said, no, that was 4 minutes 30. And he said, well, I didn't start looking. And the referee goes, oh, well, if you didn't start looking until you got over the creek, then that's different. And then Sergio goes, so what? Is it still lost? And the referee said, yes. I was like, he could have easily just changed it and said, oh, well, if you didn't start looking, then, you know, it probably was less than 4.5 minutes, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, so they could have made the correct ruling at the time, but I was a bit missed by that situation and why they got that wrong. But so then he had to, because his ball was lost, it was lost because he'd searched for 3 minutes and couldn't find it, but they were, 100% certain that it was in the penalty area, and so he could proceed under 17.1D. He did 17.1D3, lateral relief from a red penalty area, and that where it crossed was way back, and the referee offered him a ride back, and he said no. I mean, he wouldn't have said no. He would have said,
I'm okay, thanks.
he would have said, piss off, leave me alone. And then he hit one down the fairway, and the other players were playing, and then he had another go at the referee, which was spot on. He should have. That's the situation.
So that, unfortunately, the conversation you mentioned then is not in the video. And that is, if you didn't start searching till then, well, that's different. You actually, unfortunately, don't hear any of that. Unless I've missed it, but I don't think, unfortunately, you've had to cut that out.
Yeah, there was a fair bit that I had to cut out.
Yeah, and unfortunately, because my first question to you was, I would have loved for the referee to have at some point gone, actually, I think Sergio's got a point. I think he's right. I think I've actually made a small error.
Yes,
Let me fix it. Let me fix that right now. And be man enough or woman enough, to stand up and go, actually, you're right.
That would have been good. That didn't happen, but that would have been good.
And that's incredibly unfortunate. And I said to you off camera, I think that's the lesson I've learned, is that ability to immediately recognise, actually, the player's got a point here. The player's spot on. I've just completely misread the situation there. Let me completely reassess, almost refresh, start again, and actually give the player the right ruling. So that was unfortunate. And then the commentator then said the referee's done the right thing, that they've driven off. They've exited stage right and just completely exited the scene. Just an unfortunate situation.
I think it was the Wells Fargo, and you might actually be able to go back into their footage and see it, or otherwise because they're embarrassed by it, they might have got rid of it altogether. But you might be able to go back into the Wells Fargo. You'll have to check my video to see, hear what round it was. It was probably round 1 or round 2, because I think he missed the cut. But you might actually be able to go and find it. But I certainly couldn't put all of it on because they kept copywriting it, blocking it. I don't care that they copyright it.
Now, our friend, Captain Ray, heard this, and I hadn't heard it. He said, go back and listen. And as he's eventually realised that his fate is sealed, it is a lost ball, he's picked it up and he started walking back. You might hear him mumble. He says 2 more weeks.
Yeah.
In other words, I've got 2 more weeks of this, and then I'm going to be somewhere else playing.
Yeah, that was a big soundbite that went everywhere.
He wasn't the only one who
said 2 more weeks, and he said, then I'll be done with you. I won't have to deal with you anymore.
Okay.
I really wanted to keep that bit in because that was funny. And then everyone was like, "Oh, don't you realise there'll be referees on the LIV Tour?" And a couple of the referees on the LIV Tour were stalwarts of the PGA Tour, had been on the PGA Tour as referees for at least 25 years. Like, there was 50 years of
experience,
referee experience from the PGA Tour working on the LIV Golf Tour. So, but Sergio knew the referee, and of course, because they'd worked beside each other. Sergio with his golf clubs and the referee with his whistle. Or stopwatch. Yeah. So that was interesting enough. But we didn't have any issues with Sergio last week. He was great, actually. He was fantastic. So hopefully that continues.
Very good. Hey, look, if we're finished with the Sergio video, and of course, for those who haven't seen it, you need to go onto the GRQ YouTube channel and watch it. I think it's very, very interesting. And from a referee's perspective, I think it was really very interesting about how the referee handled that. I have a local rule for you. We've spoken previously about local rules at clubs, and some may just not fly with the RNA. And well, I had one. I was playing at another course a week or 2 ago, and winter in Melbourne, often or always clubs have colloquially known as a mud rule. An ability in the general area to mark your ball, lift it, clean it, and replace it on the spot because of mud and the like. And I'm sure there's a model local rule for it. You would know the number. Oh, no, you don't. All right, so there's a model local rule.
Yeah, I do. No, I was just thinking of the pun, the Mudal Local Rule.
Okay.
So the Mudal Local Rule is E1 is dropping zones, E2 is leaning ball and E3 is preferred lies. And preferred lies. So you're talking more about preferred lies.
Except you must replace it on the spot.
Now, I'll just make sure I didn't get that the wrong way around. So you're talking more about preferred lies.
Well, in this case, it's a mud rule.
So
you had to replace it on the spot. There was no.
So if you replace it on, so that's cleaning ball.
Yeah.
So that's E2. Yeah, I was right.
Yes. Okay.
So E2 is replacing it on the same spot that you lifted it from. So you must mark your ball.
As we know, 14.1. Yep.
Yeah, but whereas E3 preferred lie and then gives you a card length or a hand span or a club length.
You don't have to, but
you don't have to mark your ball, but we would recommend that you do. But the idea is that we don't penalise you if you forget or if you don't. But we would recommend that you do mark your ball.
So
we actually, sorry, Stuart, keep cutting you up. We actually had preferred lies at Slaley Hall just for the Friday. So we didn't have it Thursday, didn't have it Saturday, Sunday. We just had it for the Friday, which, as a player, you've got to be aware that it is in play or isn't in play. You're not going to get penalised. You're not going to get penalised if it's in play and you don't do it, but you will get penalised if it's not in play and you do it, which Marcel Sim on the European Tour found out about 3 years ago, I think.
Well, at my old club, there was preferred lies at fairway length or less for like 2 years to the state of the fairway. So we had pennant players so used to marking, lifting, cleaning, moving. When to play at another course, you reckon one or two of them ran afoul of that rule?
Absolutely.
Their opponent, no doubt, probably overlooked it or probably agreed to the breach. Didn't tell anyone else, as we know what the consequences of that are. But the mud rule in this particular case, or the cleaning ball rule, so we're on the 6th hole or something, and I'm saying, I'm just, although I didn't think I announced it, I was just lifting it up. And the guy yells out and goes, now, there's the mud rule in play. I said, no, I was on the pro shop. I read it before. Oh, and remember, there needs to be mud on the ball to allow you to proceed under that rule. So I said, oh, you said exactly what you just said. I said, what? Oh, yeah, there needs to be, you actually need to see mud on the ball before you're allowed to. I said, no, you don't. I said, I read the local rule. I said, you are just when I caught up to him on the fairway. I said, you're overcomplicating that. You're reading too much into that rule. You know the intention of that rule, but you don't have to see mud. I don't know why you told me that. So I set him straight in the nicest possible way. But anyway, that's just from clubland. None of you must see mud before you're allowed to proceed under that.
Does that mean that he allows you to mark and lift it to see if there's mud on the bottom, and if there's not, you put it back, or you actually 16.4? You have to be like,
yeah. So I thought you'd find that. I knew you'd laugh at that.
Oh, absolutely.
You must see mud on the ball to allow you to take relief under that, or not to take relief, but to actually proceed under that.
That's as dumb as I've heard.
I knew you'd like that.
It's a real story. My hoodie. You like my hoodie?
Very nice and appropriate in this weather.
Oh yeah, it's a bit cold. That is good. Can you get another one of those for next week? Oh, I want another one of those.
Well, as I said, that's real. That really happened to me 2 weeks ago.
So it was preferred lies. It wasn't.
No. It wasn't preferred lies. It was the cleaning ball.
It was E2.
You had to replace it on the spot. Yeah.
Okay.
Because most clubs, I think, certainly my experience, limited experience playing in, they do the preferred lies.
Yeah.
You lift it, clean it, but it must be the handspan or the card.
Yeah.
But not the cleaning ball one. They not often use the preferred lie one. You can
that's
take
right.
it once.
Yeah. Spot on. I haven't heard of even on the tour. Most of the time, it's preferred lie. They don't just do the cleaning ball.
It's E3, not E2.
E3 is preferred lie.
Yeah,
E2 is cleaning.
Yes.
Yeah. E1 is dropping zones. Right. Okay. Have you got a golf rules question of the week?
I do. I have it right here.
59.
I do.
Go for it.
GRQ OTW for episode number 59. I actually love this rule, which is why I've done this question. So I think it's a great rule. Anyway, so it's a four-ball match, and we have Helen and Charlotte, one team. They're playing Frazer and Ross in a four-ball match. So they're at Wombat Hills, of course, the 11th hole. Helen and Charlotte have holed out for 4 strokes, right? So they're in for 4. Ross has driven the green. We know how far he hits the ball. Ross has driven the green. He's on for 1. Frazer has struggled a little bit, but he's on the green now for 4. Pretty close to Ross's ball, right? Ross is further away, but they decide that Frazer should putt first to show Ross the line because Ross has a putt. So he's there for 1. Before Frazer putts, however, Helen concedes Frazer's next stroke. However, Frazer putts anyway and misses. Ross has 2 putts and holes out for a 3. What is the result of the hole and why? Now, I'll send you this. I'll send you the text for this so you can perhaps put it in the show notes or something.
Yeah, definitely. So Frazer and Ross, it's their turn. The person who's closer to the hole, Frazer, they decide that he wants to go first, but Helen concedes Frazer's shot. However, he still putts like practices, or just
remember Ross is just behind him, so he's going to show Ross the line by having a putt.
He continues to play the hole, even though his shot is conceded.
Conceded, correct.
Ross is on the same line, further away, and then Ross
he has
putts.
2 putts. He 2 putts and holes out for a 3.
And then Ross makes a 2 putt.
And Helen and Charlotte are in for 4.
And this was on the 11th hole.
Wombat Hills.
What was the state of the match?
All square.
Okay, all square. Okay. Get your answers in there, YouTube.
I just love this rule. I love it.
Right, I think that finishes us up for episode 59 for this week. Hope you enjoyed listening. We've enjoyed bringing it to you. Thank you very much, Stuart.
My pleasure. Thanks, Blakey.